please welcome Lee Jarbo, Vice President, J.E. Dunn Construction.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I get the pleasure of moderating our Improving Real-World Experiences for Georgia Students. And, ensuring that our students are prepared to engage effectively in the workforce is dependent on their experience in post-secondary education. Our future workforce needs to collaborate and problem solve while engaging in day-to-day problems experienced in the workplace. Our technical college system has a renowned ability to train individuals for employment, especially in our high-demand careers. We are excited to discuss today and explore how we can bolster real-world experiences for Georgians, especially through partnerships with TCSG. I'd like to now invite my fellow panelists to the stage. Today we have Commissioner Greg Dozier from the Technical College System of Georgia, Burt Fealing, Executive Vice President and General Counsel with Southwire, and Gianetta Jones, Senior Vice President and Chief People Officer, Coca-Cola Bottling Company, United, Inc. Please welcome our panelists. Okay, we're on. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to start with Commissioner Dozier. So the Technical College System has a stellar and well-deserved reputation for delivering qualified talent for Georgia's high-demand industries. What role do you think providing real-world experiences has certified and degreed programs offered at your institution?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I'm so proud to sit here with some folks that can really talk about the real-world experience, and hopefully as we talk today that'll come out, but obviously it plays a huge role. When you look at what TCSG does, what we've done for a long time is to have a job-ready employee when they walk out. So much that I find it kind of odd still 3 years later, sitting in this role, that we warranty our graduates. That seems a little strange when you first sit here. But it's also something very proud to say is that when someone graduates, we want them to truly represent our mission and our vision. Our mission is to have a well-educated, globally competitive workforce in Georgia. And we believe when you dive in deeper than that, we want every citizen to have economic prosperity by having the skills to have the jobs for the industry in this state. And so when we look at that, one component obviously is that education. But the bigger component for job readiness is really having that real-world application. And we do that through so many different areas, whether it's through apprenticeships, through the actual equipment that we're training on, the hands-on instructors that come in typically from industry and become instructors or come in part-time and instruct. But honestly, we couldn't do it without our industry partners. Our industry partners come in, and when you look at it, somebody brought up funding. I love that. We're during budget cycle, so talk funding. But we couldn't do it. When you look at whether it's USG or TCSG, the state covers about just under 40% of the cost of instructing a student. And the reality of that is our private sector industry partners, as well as some federal dollars and other things, come in and augment that. But what you get from that is the real life experience that makes TCSG provide the workforce that can walk in and do the job when they come in. So thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And of course, as we all know, it takes money to have your mission.
That's right.
Gianetta, I want to say, CDL drivers continue to be one of the highest number of unfilled jobs in the state, and has been for a few years now. Coca-Cola Bottling Company has partnered with TCSG to increase capacity to deliver more drivers. What have been the highlights of this partnership, and where do you see those opportunities for growth?
Great question. Thank you for having me today. So we have a great partnership with TCSG in that when you think back to about a year ago, there was a wait list at their schools for CDL students that they couldn't get in the schools. So what happened was the Coca-Cola company generously donated $1 million to TCSG to expand their capabilities, expand their bench strength, add instructors as well to try to get the talent into the pipeline. They've been experts for decades, as most of you know, on CDL. And we are capitalizing on that now. We're already seeing great returns. One that I would love to highlight is at Athens Technical College. We actually hired 2 CDL students from Athens Technical College at our Athens location, and one actually has already become Associate of the Quarter, which you're nominated by managers for going above and beyond in your role, as well as your peers. So that was a huge win, that we're already seeing just great, diverse talent coming from TCSG within our CDL schools and partnerships with them. So that's been great, and we have 22 locations in Georgia. So we go from, Jasper, Lawrenceville, Atlanta, all the way to Brunswick. So we have varying hiring needs based on the locations, and these partnerships are really what are helping us bring talent in.
Oh, that's great. I know there's probably a lot of folks in the audience that are saying, we want a partnership too. Burt, speaking of folks that have additional partnerships, Southwire has been established with your local technical college to ensure training programs are aligned with your industry needs. And could you share a little bit more about the values you have found from this direct engagement? And then also, how has it impacted the preparedness of your employees that come from TCSG?
Excellent, thank you. So first of all, I'm excited to be here because my wife is actually affiliated with Georgia Tech. She's the dean of the Ivan Allen College. So for us, education is what we live all the time, even though I am a lawyer. I'm excited about what we can do and what Southwire is doing. So there's a lot of commitment to education, whether it's been our 12 for Life program, which I can talk about, our work with Georgia Partnership for Excellence in Education, as well as what we do with the West Georgia Technical College. So we have an exciting program. We take roughly 10 students a year, and we partner with West Georgia Technical College to give those students an opportunity to come work with us for 4 hours a day. They get paid, they become employees of Southwire part-time at the same time that they're going to school. And what we found is many people are either in a second career or they're working through a process. So we help them. We make sure that all of their education is paid for. Obviously, many come in on Hope Scholarship or other scholarship needs, but we help balance the rest of that. And what they're doing is getting practical experience. They're sitting down with technicians. They're working for 4 hours a day. They're helping to solve real problems. We also partner with West Georgia Technical College. We're a manufacturer of wire and cable. So what's in the buildings and what crisscrosses the United States. We provide some of our product into the technical college. We provide some of our tools into the technical college so that students get to work with the real product. Then when we bring them into our offices and to our plants for 4 hours a day, they're solving problems, they're connecting with experts, and we guarantee them a job at the end of that 2-year program. And in some instances, we recognize that they go on to do other things. We're fine with that because we've helped the workforce get to a better place.
Oh, that's a great partnership. And, a lot of times somebody just needs that first spark, and then you never know where they go from there. So that's great. Commissioner Dozier, as we consider the persistent workforce shortages across the state, which we answered some questions on that earlier, especially in the skilled industry, what is your vision for building the most effective workforce pipeline, and what are the needs that we need to think of differently to embrace real-world experiences?
Yeah, great question. It's a tough question, though. I think that's something that we kind of made light of, or at least I can say that I might have made light of it when we first started this, talking about, has anybody heard there's a workforce need out there? 2.5 years later, I'm kind of embarrassed that I said that early on because it was kind of a way to break the ice. But the reality is it's a deep, deep piece of ice that we've got to chip away. And when you look at what the future looks like, we've been talking a lot about that at TCSG, and some of it comes from the lessons learned from the last 2 years. When you look, we've spent a lot of time, and you have probably heard about college enrollment going down over the last 2 years. and we immediately start having a little bit of panic of where is that workforce pipeline for the future coming from. I think what we've kind of not done a great job, at least at TCSG is actually sharing the global look at what TCSG does as far as training. That is exactly right what I said earlier. If you look at our technical credit side of the house, the first year of the pandemic, we saw about a 10% decline in enrollment. Second year, we saw another 3% decline in enrollment. So when you compound that, pretty heavy decline. To give you pure numbers, though, when you look at the totality of who we train in TCSG, we have Quick Start, we have the Governor's Office of Workforce Development, we have the adult learner side of the house, we have the credit side of the house that I just talked about, and then we have the what we call economic development, or most people here, customized training. So when you look at the total pie of those 5 areas, we did see that first year a decline, but we saw a rapid increase this past year in the areas outside of the credit side. And so what I like to say is when I'm talking to my boss, the governor, and others is what we saw was a speed to market on our future workforce pipeline. And the industry stepped up really big this last year. We just heard about Coca-Cola, and I can name several other partners that have really stepped up. But what happened was customized training really took off. And so while we saw a decline in the credit side of the house, we actually served, post-pandemic, we served about 340,000 students the year before the pandemic. And we saw the first year of the pandemic jump down to about 299,000 students in totality. But we saw this past year, even though we still had a 3% decline in the credit side, we saw the totality almost get back to post-pandemic numbers. We were 335,000 students. So what's that tell you when you look at vision? We saw industry and others going, we've got to get folks in the workforce quicker, but we also still want them trained. And so what comes with that? Apprenticeships. This past year, I mentioned that earlier, General Assembly put in some state money, $1.275 million, to help with apprenticeships. But the governor also awarded a grant for just over $4 million to really pump up apprenticeships. We saw the colleges dive into earlier than dual enrollment into the middle schools. How do we actually start tracking on career paths at an earlier rate? We saw K-12 step up on that, and we started doing articulation agreements through CTAE to give folks that career path at an earlier stage. We have reached in and actually looked at micro-credentials. That's kind of the latest term. You hear that from everybody almost. But we've got a reality at TCSG that the micro-credentials is really connecting that customized training to a pathway into credit training, but getting a skill so they can go into the marketplace, get that job, and connect it. I know President Todd's in here. She did a great job at the last President's Council meeting sharing how Columbus is taking a lead in that area. And in many cases, a student can walk out with a customized training and a micro-credential that already has a couple of hours in credit. And what that does is it's meeting twofold. It's getting an employee that has a skill, but it's also getting them the confidence, the belief that they can track on a credit side of the house and get that certificate, diploma, degree. eCampus. We launched eCampus during this pandemic. And what that does for us is we know that a lot of our training is hands-on skills training, but we also know that we can have a global look at much of the classroom environment when it can be done online. So we can have disparities across the state taken away, and we can take instructors that are in one part of the state and have them teaching others on the non-hands-on side of the house. That is taking off so that we maximize the instructors that we have, because we're struggling just like everybody on hiring folks. The last thing I'll kind of connect with is the vision's really, as I mentioned earlier, of connecting the dots. When you look at the global partnerships that you already heard of, I know that Phoebe was up here with the chancellor earlier, but you look at Phoebe or Piedmont down in Augusta, and you look at the connectivity of dual enrollment with a CNA pathway connected to an LPN, RN bridge, and you see the connectivity across all systems. And then you connect in the industry's commitment to those pathways, as you've heard on Coke and Southwire here. And you all of a sudden have a pipeline that people know about at an early age and are jumping on, and you're really strengthening that as you move forward. And so those are partnerships that I believe that you'll see in the future spreading across this state, across multiple industries, that pays dividends forever. And to just let you know, that $1 million that Coke gave us to get us started went on top of another $8 million that the governor gave us for a one-time grant. So we were able to expand our CDL training through that generous gift at 5 of our colleges, hire the instructors, and the result is that we now have a 23% increase in enrollment on the credit side for CDL. That's powerful, so thank you. But the vision is bright. We have a huge need, but the system is moving faster than I can keep up with, just like the private industry is. Thank you.
No, those are great examples, and I think we were talking earlier about the micro certifications and kind of getting people on those pathways. So this question, Gianetta, I'll let you start, and then Burt will scoot over to you. But as you consider the progress that your current partnerships and programs have had, what are you considering as you address future workforce needs, and where do you see things going in the future?
Great question. So one thing I think, like what Greg mentioned, is really us expanding into that micro-learning, technical training. We have service techs. Those are the people on our team that make sure the fountains, when you push the lever, you get that good Coke burn. When you get your drink, if you go to McDonald's, you want the burn. And so that's a highly skilled, it's a very technical job, believe it or not. And so the magic behind that and how we create skilled programs with TCSG as well as others, as well as production mechanics at our bottling facilities as well. There's a lot of highly technical jobs. So I think partnering on the technical side, we have the CDL partnership already, but also expanding on to the technical roles that we have within our company. And then we are also, what we're working on right now is what we call culture of learning. So we actually piloted this in Atlanta last year. And this is truly for all of our frontline sales roles currently. We're going to expand it across warehouse, logistics, production. So those frontline roles, if we can get you past your first 90 days, we probably can keep you. So what we're doing is we're creating actual learning in-house, and we call it culture of learning, so that you can come in, be proficient in your role, and then you can move up within our organization. I think everybody needs a vision, and some people have it, some people don't, so we need to help them see their future potential, and culture of learning is helping with that. We've seen just in the pilot in Atlanta, turnover decreased by 25% in those roles, and that's our largest turnover is those frontline entry-level roles. So that's really a lot of our focus moving forward. And then we've also invested in internal CDL schools for like warehouse associates where we don't have a CDL school nearby. What we do is say, hey, now that you've learned all our products, you'd be great if you want to learn and grow with us and come into our internal CDL schools, get your CDL license, and move into the sales side of the house. So we've got a multifaceted approach from not only CDL, external, internal, but then also on technical skills. So that's kind of the future for us.
Oh, that's great. Burt, what about y'all?
So we definitely see a need for a partnership between our technical colleges and the corporations, especially the corporations in Georgia. Let me give you an example of something we're trying to overcome. The average age of the electrician is 56 years old. So if you think you have a problem today, wait 10 years. You will not be able to do the construction work that you need. We recognize that, and that's why some people were laughing about 2035 and that being a problem. If we don't address that now, it will continue to be a growing problem. We really do have to start thinking about things very early on. We need to also expand the definition in the minds of everybody who's a student today that these are professions that pay very high and that they should look at all opportunities. We want more women to go to technical colleges so that they can grow into these professions. You can easily make over $100,000. So let's think about drawing in more people and being more inclusive. So that's a big push for us. Corporations also need to adopt more technology. We no longer want to stay in a role in which you have to be able to lift 40 pounds in order to do the job. Quite frankly, I can't do the job if we have to lift 40 pounds. So we want to open it up, and some of our plants have been able to adopt that technology, and we have some lines in which the most efficient person on there is a woman, and that's because we haven't required the dependency of the lifting. It's all about getting it done. It's about being trained. It's about utilizing the technology. That's what we need to think about for the future. We need to be much more inclusive and draw more people in. We have to think about it at high school and earlier too. So Southwire has a program called 12 for Life. It's been around for 16 years. It goes in and it takes the at-risk students in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. We use a rubric that says, are you low income? Is attendance low? Are there other factors? For some people, they may have a child already at the age of 16. So I just want to share that with you because we are able to work on it, and it's been in place for 16 years. We have seen the graduation rates in Carroll County, which is the first county in which it was adopted. It's also in Heard County. It's in Carrollton City Schools. We've seen some of the graduation rates go from 64% to 94%. So this is just part of that program. But because you have working relationships between corporations and the school systems, and then school systems really embracing that we can work together to solve this, it makes phenomenal changes. So I would say to each of you, think about what you can do in the next 10 years for somebody who may be in a middle school or in high school, because that will really open up what this field looks like in 2030 and 2035. Whether or not you're retired by then, you can at least open up the field to others.
No, I think that's a great point. And, connecting with these kids early on, not just, the A students, but all students can have a great opportunity if we can do the partnerships right. So as we close today, I would love to hear your thoughts on the importance of prioritizing kind of the real world learning to build a more prepared workforce. And you touched on some, but maybe expand a little.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just kind of started with this, but one thing that maybe I didn't expound on enough is just the idea of centers of excellence and what that means for us in TCSG is small manufacturing plants that students are learning on. Centers of excellence in healthcare. I love the two concepts I mentioned down in Phoebe and at Piedmont in Augusta. But also there's some sim labs that really give a true life experience that you see across TCSG down in Warner Robins with that partnership. And so as we continue to move forward, when you hear about, Greg was talking the other day, Greg Wilson was talking the other day about the population concern as far as future young students coming up, and those that are 18 or younger and that population really not growing at a rapid rate. How do we make sure that the skills retraining is there for everyone? Because as we move forward, we need to make sure we have centers of excellence that can really train a young person, a middle-aged person, an older person for whatever skill is needed to be successful in the industry environment. And so that real-life training really transcends very quickly, and as we continue to have this speed issue, needing folks as quick as we can get them, we've got to make sure that the technology and the opportunity matches real-world experience. And I believe we're doing a great job, but as fast as that's moving, we just have to keep going. So just a few other things on that importance because it's not going to go away.
We have a math problem we talked about. The boomers are much larger than any other generation after, so we're just trying to make it up.
Yeah, and I would say this. I really think that we're starting to really help students learn what pathway makes sense for them. As we've talked up here, I think that one thing that we've often thought about, and I'll be honest, I was probably guilty at one point of this, of thinking that certain students based on grades should go to certain collegiate opportunities. We're seeing that everybody's a first choice now because we're doing a better job on tracking what does someone want to do in their career pathway. And as said, is a lot of folks can make a lot of money no matter which pathway they choose. And so we're seeing some valedictorians coming to the technical college. And what we're also seeing is that sometimes some students who didn't think they wanted to go to college and took a gap year come back, and they end up chasing a PhD in the university system after they finish with us, and they're making more money than anybody because they have the practical real-life skill that they learned at TCSG. They have the theory at USG, and they're extremely knowledgeable on the totality of what they're working on. So just tons of opportunity, and we're doing a great job breaking down these perceived barriers on what different pathways mean for folks.
Any thoughts from y'all on just preparedness?
Yeah, I'd love to give a couple of examples. So we have somebody in our plant who was in our 12 for Life program. That's the high school program. She graduated from high school in 2009. Continuous learning all the way through. She's been with Southwire. She's now a plant manager for one of our facilities. Because she started early on and because somebody sat down with her and said, this is what you need to do. This is how you do a scheduling for your classes. This is how you do scheduling for work. This is what happens when you get a paycheck. Let's open up a bank account. So things that you may take for granted, you have to be able to walk students through all of these different things. So that's one example. Another example, we have somebody who's went through a technical college program. She has decided that she wants to continue to learn. She came in and participated in our Women in Manufacturing organization that also tied her into the bigger Women in Manufacturing organization. And now she's doing a training in our LIT, which is Leadership Information Training Program. So putting all of that together, I think we also have to view it that the employee of today is going to be continuously learning, finding ways to go back into schools, into the technical colleges, into the universities, to find ways to continue to improve on themselves and to get higher paying jobs. It's just going to be a part of a path and a lifestyle. It doesn't just end when you graduate. So it keeps going.
And I'll just add, I think somebody earlier mentioned humanizing our jobs. I think we have to tell our story earlier in all these students in middle school and up, and really explain and give the stories and give these types of examples so that they can, what did they see when they see me, and how they can relate, and also have those individual development plans, because education and learning and growth, it's all individualized, right? So it's a lot of one-on-one conversations. It's a lot of focus, not only for our team, but also those managers, and equipping them to be able to have those good conversations, I think is key, because everybody wants to be invested in, and I think that's how you'll grow your teams, bringing in the new talent pipelines as well.
I think those are great examples. I know when I was in school, it was kind of like you just do it to do it. And now it's the why behind everything. And that's how they get interested in and stick and stay with it. So I think this has been a great discussion. We appreciate y'all's time. I want to thank each of you and all that you're doing to bolster the workforce pipeline in Georgia. Oh, okay. Oh, we have enough time. I can take some questions from the audience if anyone has any questions. I see a hand back there.
I've got one. TCSG, you said you had 20 locations for the CDL program. I'm just curious on how many drivers are you producing, and do you have like one school dedicated solely to Coca-Cola due to y'all's partnership?
We do not, and actually, as far as the pure numbers, I'm going to miss them because we have the credit and the non-credit side, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll have to get those numbers for you. I would say around about somewhere around the 4,000 number when you combine both sides, which obviously we need more in this state. Coca-Cola was nice enough to make that donation, and their money is not going directly toward Coca-Cola. And so they have donated money for instructors to 5 colleges, knowing that their investment is for CDL overall, believing that they, and I hate to put words in y'all's mouth, but believing that they will benefit by investing in the totality of the situation. And so obviously they have needs across this state, and hopefully they're pulling from across this state from all the colleges, even though the investment they gave went to 5 specific. Now, those 5 specifics, you guys had locations in those areas and had big need. But obviously, we want to continue to grow that. One of the things that's really unique in TCSG is we are very blessed in this state to have tuition free, and it sometimes for 18 high demand career fields, and a lot of times that puts pressure on how do you expand programs that have a very tight budget. And so when you look at CDL along with nursing and several others, you can imagine those are high cost programs. When you look at the funding mechanism, we're able to keep the tuition around $100 per credit hour for our students, which is very, very inexpensive. And without donations like we talked about here and several others, I could talk about Phoebe, I could talk about Piedmont, King Hawaiians, Kubota. I can name just about every industry in the state that's donating to make sure that pipeline comes because of that funding crunch as you look at it. But it also is neat that it produces the specific needs our industry needs in the state, because we're able to really take every program and have an advisory panel at the local level that we can curtail that program to meet the specific needs of that industry. But Coke's been a great partner on that. And I think we have it at every location. So I think we have it at 21 of 22 states. If I said 20, I apologize.
Great. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm one out of 3% of women that are electricians in the United States, which is very, very low.
Very low. Congratulations.
Thank you. My question is, a lot of the times the entry level to any company is at the front line. Do you provide DE&I training at the front line? Because a lot of the times the DE&I training is always at the leadership and at the top, but it never trickles down to the people that's where they get their first experience. So do you all provide DE&I training at that level as well?
Yeah, so the question is whether or not we provide DE&I training to the front line as opposed to just at the management team. So we provide it throughout all of Southwire. And in fact, we have now changed this year. It's now part of our compensation. So all the way through, you'll have to have a goal, and that goal has to be, what are you doing with respect to DE&I? We're also looking at other programs. So for example, Southwire is looking at a MARC program, which is men advocating for real change. And that is supposed to be, since unfortunately we tend to be not as diverse as we want to be, men coming in and getting involved and saying, what can we do to get more women involved in what we do, participating? And quite frankly, because I head up legal, I need to make sure that it's a very even playing field. I don't want to have issues. No one wants to have any kind of environment in which it's not an easy place to learn and to grow. So we work very hard on doing that. I also wanted to say, just as we're waiting for another question, get involved with kids as early as you can. I had the benefit of, when I was in 4th grade, a teacher asking us to do a project, what do you want to do in your career? What type of career do you want? What's your aspirations? What's your goals? That is actually what helped shape and define what I do today, because I came back and said, I want to be a lawyer. And everyone started saying, well, why do you want to do that? And my answer was, well, it sounds like it's James Bond without a gun. I get to travel all over the place. I get to do real cool deals, and no one's going to shoot at me. But that's what I mean. At 4th grade, you can help define someone's career early on. So get involved, participate, and just continue to do what you can, because that next generation needs as much help as we can possibly give them for their success.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on mentoring, but that is a big, mentoring and sponsorship is a big. Any other questions? I'm looking in the audience. And the lights are bright, so, okay, is that Lisa Clark? Okay, I think it's Lisa. So the question is, if, just for those that didn't hear, are you talking to middle school students, both in the Black and brown communities? High school's too late to get them.
Yes, we are beginning that process. I think we're a little behind, just to be honest. But last year, we invested in workforce engagement managers. When we came out of COVID, we thought about, okay, from an HR perspective, how do we become a more agile team? And that was where we felt like we had the largest gap, was how do we engage? Because our talent acquisition team, I mean, I just can't get them off the phone, right? So this team is really actively partnering with middle schools of Black and brown, predominantly school systems as well, so that we can start those conversations, humanize our jobs, tell the stories, talk about we've been around for over 120 years, we're here to stay, and we're growing, so that people can understand the world's chaotic, but we're here and we're stable, and we'll help, if you come, join us in the future, we'll help grow your career. And so that's what we're working on now, but we've added workforce engagement managers specifically to help us with that.
So I would also add that we do work with middle schools, but we can always do more. And I think that's the hallmark of what it is. In many instances, we go into the schools to just talk about, this is who we are, this is what we do. We don't specifically go in and focus and say, hey, we want you to have a career with us, and these are the opportunities. So I think that's probably something that we can do more of. And I would challenge everybody who knows a corporation, any executive in a corporation, get them to come in. Get them to come into the old school career day and start talking about, this is what our school does. This is the kind of jobs that we have. Because we're going to have a need for jobs in 2023, in 2025, in 2030. When these kids are coming out of school, we're still going to have openings. Because like Gianetta said, we're growing. We've been around for 73 years. We're hoping to be well beyond that, 100 plus years, 150 years. But we're going to need these kids to come in and do the work. And it's going to be at different levels. As we adopt more technology into what we're doing for manufacturing, we need them to have more technical skills. We need them to fix much more sophisticated equipment than was there. I mean, yes, we still have some of our equipment that was put in place in the 1960s, and we're moving that into the 2020s. But this same equipment is now coming with new technology, and it's coming with devices on it so that you can track, is it operating the way it should? And somebody needs to be able to help us with that. So middle school, especially if they're into high tech, we'd love to see them. So.
Yeah, and I would just add our 22 colleges in different ways connect with all the middle schools, and that's just different by each of the colleges at what level they're engaged. One of the more robust engagements that I kind of alluded to earlier is our North Georgia Tech. They've actually engaged in each of the middle schools in their areas, and they've started a color pathway for each technical pathway that you could choose, and have started working with the middle schools and really explaining what those are. And I'm going to make this up, but I'm going to say maybe manufacturing's red and allied health is purple. But they will track those young people as they leave middle school into the high school to see if that changes at all, and how they can truly work with the counselor in the high school to see if those pathways are something they want to truly track on. As far as our diversity, as far as our colleges go, I say this very cautiously, we're majority minority, but honestly it's pretty split. When you look at it, it's pretty even when you look at our population that is white versus our non-white population, almost 50-50 almost. But having said that, one of the fastest growing areas is our Latino population. So we are reaching the Latino community. In fact, tomorrow I'm meeting with the association over off of Claremont or Buford, and really talking about how we can really reach that community even greater. So we have a focus on all populations, but specifically to your question, that is an area that we are hopefully doing a better job in than maybe we did in the past.
Well, now, I'll say we're 100 years old next year. And, we just hired a K through 12 liaison to help to tap into some more of the diverse communities. And so I think us as corporations are going to have to start taking that responsibility on ourselves because there's not enough school counselors to help with it.
And
Go ahead.
well, I just want to add, in every instance in which you get to go to a meeting like this, ask these questions. If you're not asking us, what are we doing about DE&I? What are we doing about helping Black, Brown, Asian, LGBTQ communities? We're not going to think about it as much as you're thinking about it. So if you continue to bring this question up, we will drive the change that you want to see.
Looks like we probably have time for one more question if anyone in the audience has. The lights are bright, so stand it up. Okay, look. No, but I have one down front if nobody else. All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is my industry, so I'm talking back to Southwire.
We love electricians, thank you.
Right. I haven't, my electrical contracting company is 22 years old, so I've been in business that long. But with the electrification and the IRA and the BIL, I just feel like nobody's talking about this enough. It's so many, it's trillions of dollars that are about to be spent under that, and we need electricians so bad.
Yes.
It's not just, in your plants. It's not just, around Georgia. It's not just in building in Georgia. It's all over the world. We have companies trying to recruit us to go to other parts of the world for work. And so how are you communicating the whole electrification transition as we transition, even with, because I work for the Southern Company as well. How are you all communicating that and the importance of it, even at the schools as well, and how kids can go anywhere in the country and in the world and work?
Yes. So how are we communicating the importance of the change in our technology, the use of not only, electrification, essentially. And I would say if you look at some of the federal funding, $1.2 trillion is going to infrastructure. Of the $1.2 trillion, we have deeply studied this, and we think about $4 billion is going into our industry. And that's over the next 5 years. So we are looking to build, looking to grow, since we manufacture wire and cable, just about everything almost everything that you touch is connected in some way with electricity. And we think that's going to continue, whether that's going to be a change in your house because it uses some other sort of green energy, or you get an electric vehicle that can operate off of electricity but then also becomes a battery for backup generation when the power goes out. The world is continuing to change, and we need to be ready for that, and we need to hire more people. So one thing that we're doing is hiring. We have 8,500 employees, and last year we hired about 1,000 because we needed to account for the churn that Gianetta was talking about. Some people come in, they stay less than 90 days, they decide they want to go into another field. That's okay, but we want you to come in and stay. And we want to partner with you with the technical colleges to create a career, an experience, and a lifestyle that'll keep you going for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, and I'll just add on that obviously with the electrification coming to Georgia so quickly, these last 12 months have been just in the EV side, but also everything surrounding the EV to the infrastructure. As I look at it, I think I saw Stewart in here somewhere. There he is with Kia, and then you got Hyundai, and then you got Rivian, you got SK On, you got it's going on. And with that, I couldn't be prouder that your technical college system is right there in the mix. Archer down in Covington, we're right in the mix of how do we make sure that we have the training and the skill set that matches the electrification of the state. And really and truly, it's coming from the top down. I can tell you the governor making a statement in his State of the State and in his inaugural speech talking about being the EV capital of the world extends much beyond just the EV capital of the world. It's the electrification process. And it's amazing his personal interest as he sends an article here or there and says, make sure it was all about the future of electricians that we have to have in order to have his vision come to fruition. And that's going out to our 22 college presidents, but also it's coming from all the industries like Southwire and everybody else saying, hey, you got to be at the table, and we're proud to be there.
No, that's great. And I think this was a great discussion. I hope everybody found value in the conversation. Thank you. Please thank our panelists today.